Breaking news coming out today in the past couple of hours. Take a look at the latest headlines with me. Israel strikes Gaza City after claiming Hamas breach of the ceasefire. You can see multiple Israeli strikes on Gaza City, gunfire, shelling, explosions reported in Rafah and the eastern part of Khan Younis in the south. Israel launches strikes 13 minutes ago, updated on Gaza. Reports say after Netanyahu orders a powerful attack. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu orders a powerful, immediate attack on Gaza. Live updates coming out. Israel-Gaza live updates. Netanyahu orders powerful strikes in Gaza, and Netanyahu orders a powerful Gaza strike. Trump's ceasefire is tested. Now, we're yet to hear Trump's responses. This has just come out. And take a look. Though we had seen that in the past 24 hours, Trump has hinted at action if Hamas doesn't return the hostage bodies. I'm going to play for you Trump's response yesterday with Marco Rubio. But just in the past couple of hours, we have heard that things have escalated. We are hearing that Hamas has violated the ceasefire. They're saying that some of the bodies that have been returned, they actually have discovered that Hamas is digging up old Israeli bodies and turning it in and claiming that it is the hostages. And they are saying that Hamas knows exactly where those bodies are of the hostages, but they are violating it. They are deceiving, and they are saying that they are defying the agreement for the ceasefire. And now Israel is attacking again as of a couple of hours ago. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I see somebody saying this is overdue. Do you think that war is the only route, that we need to eliminate Hamas? If you think so, put war in the comments. If you think no, put peace. But I'm going to give you the latest updates and video footage so that way you can see it for yourself. Now, I'm going to put it on the screen, read right from it. We got a lot of video footage, breaking news coming out in just the past hour. If you appreciate that, do me a quick favor, hit that thumbs up like button. I'm going to play it from an assortment of different news sources. I've got ABC, CBS, Fox, Live Now with Fox, several different ones so you can get all the perspectives and opinions coming out in the past couple of hours, the breaking news, as we're hearing that it looks like we're going to be going right into war. And again, if you appreciate that, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free, as we are seeing the dynamics in the Middle East changing, and they're saying Donald Trump's ceasefire agreement, it is currently under a lot of stress as things appear to be falling apart in the Middle East. Deborah Serrano, thank you for that $10 super chat. She says, thank you, Steve, for all that you do. God bless you and keep you. Thank you so much for those kind words in the super chat. I appreciate that a ton. And I am seeing war pouring into the comments. So let me go ahead and just dive right in and get you caught up on the latest. Let's take a look at the video footage so you can see it for yourself.
Breaking news at this hour, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is ordering immediate and powerful strikes on Gaza after the Israeli military says Hamas violated its ceasefire. Let's get right to our chief foreign correspondent, Trey Yingst. He's in Tel Aviv for us with the latest from there. Hi, Trey.
Sandra, good afternoon. The Israeli military is carrying out a series of airstrikes inside Gaza after Hamas attacked Israeli soldiers near the city of Rafah. A military official telling Fox News that Hamas violated the ceasefire by shooting at troops beyond the yellow line in an area controlled by Israel. Following that incident, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a high-level security consultation before ordering immediate and powerful strikes inside the Gaza Strip. Earlier this month, 2 Israeli soldiers were killed in southern Gaza during the first major violation by Hamas of the ceasefire agreement. Hamas was set to release the body of an additional hostage tonight, one of 13 that remain inside the enclave. The group's Al-Qassam brigades released a statement last hour saying the transfer would not take place due to what they claim are Israeli violations to the agreement. Overnight, Hamas released the partial remains of an Israeli hostage whose body was already recovered after they promised to release new remains. This issue is a sticking point for Phase 1 and could affect the implementation of the agreement.
Let me say it as it is. In terms of consequences and repercussions for Hamas, nothing is off the table right now.
Phase 2 is being discussed in this ceasefire, but with this Hamas violation today, there are certainly roadblocks ahead. Sandra?
Okay, Trey, thank you very much.
There you have it, you guys, the breaking news, and you heard them say nothing is off the table. And do you think that we just need to go in, like Benjamin Netanyahu said, and give a powerful strike? That is the announcement that has happened in the past couple of hours. He said we can eliminate Hamas, wipe them out, Let me know your thoughts. And we're going to actually hear, I've got for you that announcement from Israel. That spokesperson is going to give their full thing. It's going to be a 9-minute segment I'm going to play for you as well. But let's take a look at more video footage coming out as we're getting this update.
Right now, we do have some breaking news that we do want to share with you. This is a live look right here of the Israel-Gaza border. And we did want to let you know that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered powerful strikes in Gaza. He has said he has ordered the army to immediately carry out these powerful strikes in Gaza in a new test potentially for the U.S. brokered ceasefire. He made the announcement shortly after Israel said that Hamas has opened fire at Israeli forces in southern Gaza. Tensions were already high after Hamas returned remains that Israel said belonged to a body of an Israeli hostage recovered earlier in the war. So this is a breaking news update that we did want to share with you. And I also wanted to share this social media post from Israeli Prime Minister's office saying, following security consultations, Prime Minister Netanyahu has directed the military to immediately carry out forceful strikes in the Gaza Strip. Another live look right here from the border of Israel and Gaza. It is nighttime, as you can see. We haven't yet seen some of the sky illuminate from these potential strikes, but we are continuing to monitor this as we have learned that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the army to immediately carry out powerful strikes in Gaza, making that announcement shortly after Israel said that Hamas had opened fire at Israeli forces in southern Gaza. We are continuing to monitor this breaking news situation, bringing you all developments and reaction as they come in.
There you have it, you guys. So that was just in the past couple of hours, almost like 2 hours now. The breaking news coming out, they're saying that these attacks are going to resume, that they are striking, and Netanyahu gave the word, hit them powerfully. Powerful strikes. This is the order that has been initiated. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some more video footage. This coming out from MSNBC.
Let me ask you about what's happening in the Middle East right now, because we heard several hours ago from Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu that Hamas is in, and these are his words, clear violation of the Gaza ceasefire agreement, because he says they returned remains of the hostages to Israel that are not what they were supposed to be. There were some that were already returned. And now we just got this breaking news. Quote, this is a statement from the Prime Minister's office. Following security consultations, Prime Minister Netanyahu instructed the military echelon to carry out powerful strikes in the Gaza Strip immediately. Your reaction to this?
Look, it's clear that Hamas is not in full compliance with the agreement. I don't think they ever will be. If, for example, disarmament is a pipe dream, they're not going to do it. The real question is whether Israeli responses are proportional to what happened, whether they're constructive, whether they'll get you where you want to go. I have questions about it. So to me, the really interesting thing, Chris, is what is the reaction of Donald Trump? He's obviously in Asia. We've been talking about it. But does the United States lean on the Israelis to basically rein it in? We do not want to go back to what was there before the ceasefire. We don't want to see the fighting resume, the humanitarian crisis get rekindled and so forth. So I actually think this is an interesting moment for the Trump administration. They made a big investment in Middle East diplomacy. They had some initial return. It's now in jeopardy. Let's see what they're going to do.
And in no way to diminish the tragedy that this is for the families who are still waiting for the return of the remains of their loved ones who they know were killed while they were hostages. We've known that this was going to be not just a difficult endeavor, but maybe a near impossible endeavor.
Oh, if the definition of is to get to, you've defined success ambitiously, peace agreement between Israelis and Palestinians, and that near impossible, long shot. That's the stuff of decades. Right now, we want to keep from going backwards. More modest goal, but still ambitious in the Middle East. No matter what you try to do in the Middle East, it's by definition ambitious. We want to keep the ceasefire from unraveling. We'd like to see things move forward, however haltingly. This is one of the first tests, if not the first big test, of the agreement.
Richard Haas, always good to have you in. Thank you.
Middle East now, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is accusing Hamas of violating the U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement. He says remains returned from Gaza by the militant group overnight belonged to a deceased hostage whose body had already been recovered by Israeli troops around 2 years ago. For more on this, I want to bring in BBC News correspondent Frank Gardner, who's joining me from Jerusalem. Frank, this is incredibly disturbing. What more do we know about it?
Yeah, good morning, Vlad. Well, a pretty major development and not a good one in the last 24 hours. So some excitement here in Israel that the next hostage was being handed over, they thought, from Hamas to the Red Cross and in turn to Israel. But forensic tests discovered very quickly that the remains that were being handed over actually belonged to somebody who the Israeli Defense Force had recovered already 2 years ago, who the family had buried. So the family are obviously extremely upset about this. Israel is furious. It is discussing right now with US officials on what the consequences of this should be. And there is another twist to this tale, which is this. Israel said that they secretly filmed using a drone. And I've seen the footage. It's not yet been released public formally, but it's been leaked to some of the Israeli media. And unless it's been doctored, it's pretty damning because it shows what Israel claims is Hamas removing a body from a house, putting it into a freshly dug shallow grave, covering it up with dirt, and then bringing in Red Cross officials and saying, look, we've discovered another body. And so they're calling it a blatant deception by Hamas. They are livid with Hamas. They want there to be consequences. And what are those consequences going to be? Well, there's a number of things that they could do, ranging from, there are a number of options here, I think, that Israel could do, ranging from renewing the war, which nobody wants, and I think the Trump administration will almost certainly say no to possibly withholding aid, to moving the yellow line between the Israeli-controlled part of Gaza Strip and the rest of it. But it's certainly, it's threatening the Trump ceasefire plan, I would say.
So what do we know then about efforts inside Gaza to locate and return the bodies of those remaining hostages still there?
So there is a major discrepancy here between, as you would expect, not surprisingly, between the Hamas version of events and the Israeli government version of events. Israel, its government says they've got evidence. They've not released what it is, but they have got evidence, they say, which has been shared with US officials, that they know that Hamas know where all the remaining hostages are, the remains of those hostages are. Remember, all the living hostages, the 20, were all released very early on in phase 1 of the Trump peace plan. That bit is great. That's worked. That nobody can take that away. But it's this foot dragging, this delaying that is really upsetting people. Back to you.
All right, Frank, thank you very much, my friend. Stay safe out there.
So there you have it, you guys. These are the breaking news updates that have been coming out across the media over the past couple of hours as we have been hearing the developing news that Israel strikes Gaza City after claiming that Hamas has breached the ceasefire. And there you heard that also some of the bodies they returned actually were bodies of Israelis that they dug up and then gave to Israel, claiming that they were the hostages. Take a look. Here's a live feed. Israel launches strikes on Gaza, reports say, after Netanyahu orders powerful attacks. Israeli airstrikes hit Gaza as tensions rise over fragile ceasefire. Let's take a look at this. A spokesperson for Hamas's civil defense told BBC that 3 Palestinians were killed and dozens injured in a series of Israeli airstrikes that hit homes, the courtyards of Al-Shifa Hospital, and several other areas in Deir al-Balah and Khan Younis. Witnesses and local residents reported hearing powerful explosions that shook several parts of the enclave, with the heaviest strikes concentrated in Gaza City. This is the live feed. This is happening right now. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu orders powerful, immediate attacks on Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the military to carry out powerful attacks in Gaza, his office says. It comes after Netanyahu alleged Hamas committed a clear violation of the ceasefire deal. For its part, Gaza's government media office accused Israel of committing 125 violations of the ceasefire since it came into effect on October 10th, including killing 94 Palestinians. Now, this coming in 1 minute ago. Israeli escalation across occupied territory, not just besieged Gaza. Now, while most international focus is on catastrophic conditions in Gaza. Palestinians say violence and dispossession have also continued to ramp up in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. It is touching every aspect of Palestinian lives everywhere. There is a lot of fragmentation within the Palestinian community, but everyone is affected and targeted in a different way, said Dr. Sama Jabbar. There is escalation now in the West Bank that was overshadowed by the grave events in Gaza. So we're hearing that this is spreading, and I saw those wars pouring into the comments. 11 minutes ago, U.S.-Israel relations in the spotlight as Gaza truce teeters on the brink. Rami Kohori, a distinguished public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut, says the attacks being carried out on Israel have been widely expected by many Middle East observers. The big issue here is the relationship between Netanyahu and Trump and between Israeli government and the American government, said Al Jazeera from Beirut, Lebanon. Hamas in Gaza is in a very weak position, and it is complying as fully as it can with the ceasefire regulations. That is the opinion of Al Jazeera. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who is at fault here? Is Hamas maintaining their agreement as Al Jazeera is claiming? Let me know your thoughts. Is Hamas keeping the ceasefire? Yes or no in the comments. Without any aim to engage in fighting, they claim. And this is a test of American diplomacy. We will just have to wait for 24 hours or so to see if there is a sign from the United States government that they are going to put pressure on Netanyahu to stop this kind of attack, he says. What mediating powers, Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar, will do is another important question, said Corey. Breaking news, Hamas denies involvement in a shooting in Rafah. So we are waiting to see what Trump is going to say. What do you think he's going to say? War or peace? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And here's another live feed from ABC News, says Israel-Gaza live updates. Netanyahu orders powerful strikes in Gaza. The bodies of 13 Israeli hostages are thought to remain in Gaza. So they are saying they have violated the ceasefire agreement, not providing those bodies, actually digging up old bodies and giving them to Israel, claiming they are the hostages. U.S. President Donald Trump pressed Hamas to act faster in returning the bodies of deceased hostages amid the delicate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Israel has accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire deal by withholding the bodies of the remaining 13 deceased hostages thought to have died during or after the Hamas attacks on October 7, 2023. Hamas has said the return of the remaining bodies may take some time due to the destruction wrought in Gaza. Egyptian equipment and specialists have been deployed to Gaza to help locate and recover the bodies of Israeli hostages who remain missing. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday today has instructed the country's military to carry out powerful strikes in Gaza, a statement from his office has said. 2 hours and 1 minute ago, Netanyahu orders a strike on Gaza. At 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, Netanyahu accuses Hamas of a ceasefire violation over the hostage remains. October 27th, yesterday, coffin in IDF custody in Gaza will be taken to Israel for identification. And also tomorrow, International Committee of the Red Cross accompanies Hamas as the search for hostage bodies continue in Gaza. 6 minutes ago, explosions heard in Gaza after Netanyahu orders the strikes. 2 explosions were heard coming from the eastern areas of Deir al-Balah in the middle of the Gaza Strip in the past hour. There has been no official word from either party, Israel or Hamas, on any action on the ground in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that strikes would resume on Gaza earlier on Tuesday today. Israel decided to carry out strikes in Gaza because of an attack on Israel Defense Force troops in the IDF-controlled area of Gaza, east of the Yellow Line, on Tuesday, and for violating the agreement to return the remains of all the dead hostages still being held in Gaza. Israeli Defense Minister Israeli Katz said in a statement on Tuesday, the attack on IDF soldiers in Gaza today by the Hamas terrorist organization is crossing a bright red line, to which the IDF will respond with great force, Katz said in a statement originally in Hebrew. Hamas will pay with compound interest for attacking the soldiers and violating the agreement to return the fallen hostages, he added. As a part of the ceasefire deal, the IDF withdrew to an established yellow line in Gaza. IDF troops control parts of Gaza's east of the yellow line. At these borders, the IDF still controls more than 50% of Gaza. Hamas attacked IDF troops in this area of Gaza on Tuesday today, violating a ceasefire agreement, two Israeli officials told ABC News. Israeli authorities were also particularly aggravated after the remains returned by Hamas via the Red Cross on Monday night yesterday were identified as a hostage whose remains had previously been found in Gaza by IDF troops, one Israeli military official said. The military official said one of the IDF surveillance cameras captured footage they say show Hamas staging the discovery of a body in Gaza front of the Red Cross on Monday. And we heard that in that report. They had said from ABC News that there is drone video footage. They were recording them, and they saw them bring out a body that was dead from a building, drop it into a hole, bury it, and then go get the Red Cross and claim that they found a body, staging finding bodies. And let me know your thoughts. Can Hamas even be trusted at all at this point? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, yes or no. And we're hearing that. Take a look. 1 hour and 28 minutes ago, Hamas says that it will delay handover of hostage body over Israelis' ceasefire violations. So Hamas is saying, we're not handing anything over because Israel, they're claiming, has defied the ceasefire. And they are saying that this is Trump's ceasefire agreement that is being put to the test, and we are yet to see Trump's response on this. But I'm going to share with you the response that we got from him and Marco Rubio over the last 24 hours regarding potential attacks, the talks of what they said potentially could be coming here. And they said they don't see it as Netanyahu breaking the ceasefire agreement. Israel still has a right to defend itself as Hamas attacks the soldiers. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the video footage so that way you can see it for yourself, what Trump had to say aboard Air Force One yesterday. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Sir, for you or Secretary Rubio, over the weekend, Israel assassinated a military official of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement. Does that violate the ceasefire law between Israel and Hamas, or are they treated as a separate group?
Talking about the strike against the Palestinian Jihad individual?
Yes.
Yeah, look, Israel didn't surrender its right to self-defense. Obviously, the ceasefire is based on obligations on both sides. By the way, we'd also like to see Hamas speed up the return of hostage bodies. We still have 13 hostages, 2 Americans included. But we don't view that as a violation of the ceasefire. They have a right. There's an imminent threat to Israel, and all the mediators agree with that.
Israel has a right to defend themselves. And Trump said at the end there, how transparent. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what Israel had to say about this coming out just in the past 2 hours as well.
IDF headquarters with senior-ranked security officials to discuss the serious repercussions the terror group will now face. Hamas signed a deal that would require them to hand over all of our 48 hostages, which was violated 15 days ago now. Israel has not only waited patiently during this time, but gave Hamas an opportunity to retrieve and hand over all of our 28 deceased hostages in captivity. We are fully aware and have knowledge that Hamas can locate and retrieve the remains of our 13 deceased hostages that are still in Gaza right now. The deception by Hamas we see today is nothing new. We've been trying to warn the world and the press about it since the beginning of this war. Lie after lie, the media has fallen into their trap. The same trap they created when spreading misinformation about severe starvation inside of Gaza for 2 years. I can share with you today that Israel continues to facilitate the entry of thousands of trucks carrying humanitarian aid and food into the Gaza Strip each week, with hundreds of trucks entering on a daily basis. Now, despite this ongoing effort, much of the media's attention remains fixated on the issue of aid. And in recent days, both the Prime Minister's office and IDF officials have repeatedly been called upon to respond to questions on this topic. Too often during live interviews and broadcasts, journalists are quick to interrupt or accuse Israel of not allowing sufficient aid into Gaza. To those journalists, I would like to pose a question to you. For the past 2 years, you have relied heavily on social media to illustrate the suffering of Palestinians inside of the Gaza Strip, suffering caused by Hamas's control and actions. You've shared videos of airstrikes, destroyed buildings, and scenes of hardship, and often out of context to shape a particular narrative about what's actually happening in Gaza. But if you are willing to use social media to highlight suffering, why not also use it to show the other side of the reality, the evidence of abundant of food supplies that's now visible across several cities in Gaza? There are videos that are taken on social media, posted all over social media, and posted actually within the last few days of immense and abundance amount of food. All journalists have access to these pages on Instagram or on TikTok, which showcases a butcher with a variety of meat options, bustling stores, dazzling fresh fruit in abundance, hot food served at restaurants and in people's homes, and desserts like sweet treats, crepes, milkshakes, and even ice cream. I see this stuff on social media, by the way, on a daily basis, and I have yet to see it reflected in the news in these outlets. Social media is a powerful storytelling tool, and we all understand how it works. You select images that support your narrative, yet what we don't see in mainstream coverage are the images circulating online today of Gaza City supermarkets and restaurants with a variety of hot food, products, and options for people in the neighborhood. These images are genuine, easily accessible, and widely shared by residents themselves. The people of Gaza are clearly not afraid to show the reality on the ground. So the question remains, why doesn't the media show it too? I'll now take a few questions.
Celebrate Paleo Valley's Earth Day sale and get 30 sticks for only $36. If you're someone who cares...
Okay. Or Shaked from Israel Hayom. What's your response to Israel's what is your response to Hamas pretending to unearth remains of an Israeli hostage when in reality they dug it up minutes before? Did Israel give away 15 bodies of Hamas terrorists in exchange for the remains? If so, does it count as a valid exchange per the 20-point plan, or will Israel demand to receive the body of another hostage for the bodies that were delivered? I'm hoping to see on nearly all of the front pages of newspapers and the top of your newscast today, the brutality, the barbarism of Hamas. This is who Hamas is. For some reason, it's taken 2 years for hopefully the media to open up their eyes to see who Hamas is. Put yourself in the shoes of a family right now. They will now have to reopen the grave of their child for the second time now, having to do this after trying to grieve and close a circle that has been so beyond painful for them. This is who Hamas is. We've been trying to alert the world for so long. Unfortunately, so many of you who are actually on our Zoom call right now have fallen into the Hamas traps of believing and having empathy for this terror group that they can't somehow find our hostages. But look at what they did today. They purposely planted the remains of one of our hostages who has already returned home and been buried 2 years ago, faking that they found new remains of another hostage. We have 13 hostages in captivity at this point in time. We want them home. We expect them to come home. And I hope this is continued to be repeated. Israel is aware that Hamas knows where these bodies are located. Santiago from Spanish National Radio. Is the government thinking of setting a deadline for the return of all deceased hostages? Could the war be resumed if Hamas fails to comply? Let me say it as it is. In terms of consequences and repercussions for Hamas, nothing is off the table right now. Also, in terms of just Spanish National Radio, I hope you're picking up on all of these messages of who Hamas is, right? And they are, in fact, a terror organization. Make sure that it says that they are not militants. This is a terror organization, and they are continuing to cause the families of Israel immense pain and suffering. Look at what is going on with this family right now, having to deal with this. And let's also, once again, point out 13 other families are waiting for the remains of their loved ones to be returned, a commitment Hamas has made. It's something they signed off on. Remember, this is a plan, this is a deal Hamas signed off on 15 plus days ago at this point in time. Where are our hostages? Let's make sure that that's certainly reported as well. Lior Soroka, what steps is Israel considering after Hamas has not returned the bodies of the deceased hostages for several days? So like you have heard and what I said in my briefing, there is a meeting taking place the prime minister is holding. And in terms of consequences for Hamas, nothing is off the table right now. But all of this is in full coordination with the United States, with President Trump and his team. David Isaac, JNS, could the Prime Minister's office provide comment regarding recent reports that Hamas is selecting candidates for the future technocratic governments in the Gaza Strip, including who would head it? So in terms of that, I've also seen those reports. Let's get something very clear. Let's go back to the 20-point plan, which was established and has taken shape because we are in the first phase of this. And part of the 20-point plan says Hamas will have no future inside of the Gaza Strip. Gaza will be demilitarized. Hamas will be disarmed. That's my response. Joel Pollack, Breitbart News. Can you respond to a South African medical board finding the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to health guilty of unprofessional conduct for profane language against the Prime Minister on social media? I have not seen those reports, so I'm not going to comment at this time. Why would Hamas think that it can get away with faking the retrieval of hostages' body? This is exactly who Hamas is. It's a terror organization. For 2 years, I've seen the press write Hamas militants. I honestly don't understand why they would be considered militants. This is a terror organization. They are terrorists. And this video is absolutely horrific. And to see them lie over and over again for 2 years. This is where we are. 2 years later, and the lies perpetuate. This is a terror organization. They want nothing but to destroy Israel. This is what they stand for. And they continue to, of course, cause immense suffering to the Palestinian people inside of the Gaza Strip as well.
And we wanted to just bring you a portion of that live government briefing there out of Israel as you are taking a live look. And this is coming after Israel announced today that it had received from Hamas via the Red Cross the remains of a deceased hostage as President Trump's 48-hour deadline looms. The remains, however, did not match any of the 13 deceased hostages whose bodies are still in Gaza. Fox News has learned that the coffin handed over to Israel was assessed to contain the remains of a hostage whose body was already brought back to Israel.
Welcome back, America. Julian Epstein, Israel's a democracy, defending itself, fighting Islamists and terrorists who've killed Americans here in continental United States, want to kill more Americans, want to overthrow the West, want to overthrow our economic system. And yet I feel the Democrat Party, and don't get me wrong, there's some of the Republican Party on the right that I deal with all the time, but I feel like the Democrat Party as an institution is moving in significantly and quickly in the direction of the bad guys. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And there's no question about that. And you've seen the tolerance of anti-Semitism on university campuses, which should have been prosecuted under the hate crime laws, and Democrats didn't raise a peep. Although if the victims had been black or brown, you can be sure they would have sought to prosecute. But I think what is happening on the left, Mark, is because the Democratic Party coalition is crumbling, and particularly they are losing so many working class voters and every other major demographic, is that the party is starting to look for love in all the wrong places, including with the anti-Semitic, pro-terror sympathizing left. And they're sort of being indoctrinated, inebriated by this oppressor-oppressed ideology, with the Israelis being sort of the colonial oppressors and the Palestinians being the oppressed. And this is a half-educated, simple-minded way of understanding what's going on in the Middle East. Israel has always been for peace with the Palestinians. There have been at least 5 or 6 offerings where the Palestinians could have had all of Gaza, could have had all of the West Bank. could have had 2/3 of Jerusalem, and they have said no every single time, because the Palestinian movement is not about peace, it's not about land, it's not about living peacefully, it is about destroying Israel, and the left doesn't understand that. But what I think the peace deal, the brilliant peace deal that I think is Nobel worthy that Donald Trump has struck, has not only exposed the Democrats and the far left following the wrong side morally on this, Trump has come up with an entirely new doctrine that has exposed the diplomatic class. So, the diplomatic class under both Obama and Biden had this belief that the bad guys in the Middle East, the Hamas terrorists, Hezbollah, Iran, they're really just like us. And if we just do nice things to them, if we give them lots of money and acknowledge their legitimacy, they will join the rules-based order internationally. And this was an incredibly naive point of view that was pushed by the diplomatic class that is self-interested in this paradigm because it keeps them in business. And what Trump has done, which is just absolutely brilliant, is he said, we don't need this diplomatic class. This diplomatic class has authored us nothing but failure for the last several decades. What we need are two things. We need Ronald Reagan's peace through strength. And we will show the bad guys who wish nothing but the destruction of the West and blood from the Israelis and Jews and have no other motivation other than those two things, if you see clearly. We're going to speak to them through peace through strength, because that's the language, that's the vocabulary they understand. And they did that. And they did that by taking out Iran's nuclear. They did that by decapitating Hamas and Hezbollah and Bashir al-Assad, who had killed 600,000 Syrians without a peep from the protest left. They did that through the peace through strength. But then he did something that was very, very interesting as well. He said, I don't need the diplomatic class. What I need is a businessman's sensibility, a real estate sensibility. So he went through the Gulf states and he said, you know what? If we're all doing business together, we're less likely to be killing each other. And he brought this brilliant insight, which I think is a part of the Trump doctrine. It adds to the Reagan doctrine of peace through strength. And he said, what we need to do to solve the problems in the Middle East is to begin working together, integrating as many of the Arab states in the Western economies as much as we can, under the belief that many of them really don't want to be engaged in jihadist wars. Many of them see Iran as the biggest threat. Many of them would rather be working with Israel than trying to slaughter Israel. And this was a brilliant insight that has not just brought peace, but portends a potential transformation, a pro-West, pro-peace transformation of the Middle East that the diplomatic class, particularly under Obama and Biden, was completely blind to. So not only has it exposed the pro-racist, anti-Semitic elements of the far left, it has exposed the diplomatic class as being feckless. And it has brought an entirely new paradigm that I think will be worthy of the Nobel Prize and will be a model for diplomats and for countries to follow going forward.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant points. And I agree 100% with you in your analysis of Donald Trump, too. Julian Epstein, if the Democrat Party listens to you, they have a real good shot. I fear they're not going to.
I fear they're not going to either.
There you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you appreciate Donald Trump and how he's been handling the situation, drop a 47 in the comments. We are yet to hear his response to the breaking news coming out about the strikes, which are now being reinitiated as we speak. Take a look. Israel strikes Gaza City after claiming Hamas has breached the ceasefire. We're hearing that Hamas has violated the ceasefire. Netanyahu orders powerful strikes in Gaza. Trump's ceasefire is currently being tested. And now we heard that Trump had hinted at action if Hamas doesn't return the hostage bodies. And that is exactly what we are seeing today. Now, it says U.S. officials. Now, this was coming out on the 24th. So just 4 days ago, we had heard an update. U.S. officials, including J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner, traveled to Israel this week for high-level meetings discussing the next steps in the delicate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Now, we are hearing that all of this from just 4 days ago, it is all falling apart. And right now, Israel is attacking Hamas because they are saying they have violated the ceasefire. Donald Trump said we need to get those bodies back to the families. Bodies were delivered, found out they were dug up bodies. Hamas has been violating the ceasefire agreement in several different ways. And also we're hearing there are attacks that have been happening on soldiers. And now we're hearing Benjamin Netanyahu has given the order. He has said, do powerful strikes against Hamas now. Now we're going to see what unfolds from here. We're going to see Donald Trump's response. And as soon as we do, I'll be sure to share with you here on the channel. I'm seeing 47s coming in as people are saying they are supporting Donald Trump, his efforts to do this ceasefire. But it looks like things are unraveling. Now we will see. I will keep you up to date here on the channel so you know exactly what is going on. And let me know your thoughts. Is this ceasefire going to stay together? If you think so, put yes. If you think no, put no. We haven't heard an official declaration of war yet again. However, we are hearing that strikes have been ordered. They've been said to be made powerful. And we've heard that Benjamin Netanyahu said that he is ready to wipe out Hamas, these terrorist proxy groups that are based from Iran. And we also had heard before that Benjamin Netanyahu was ready and waiting for strikes on Iran as well. But we had saw the United States drop those bombs on those facilities, 3 of them, in which we haven't heard much from Iran, but now we are hearing that there is some effort to get Hamas under wraps here. But we're going to see, because as a lot of people mentioned in the comments, it's hard to do negotiations with terrorists. They can't be trusted. So we're going to see where we go from here. I will continue to keep you up to date here on the channel, but that is the latest. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.